as we are joined by the head football coach of the Giants, Tom Coughlin. Tom.
Hi, Mike.
Welcome. How are you?
Nice
Good to see you, Coach. How's life?
Good.
Yeah, is everything okay?
Yeah, everything's great.
Good. I don't get this new camp stuff, Tom. You getting used to it? I feel like I'm in Disney World.
It's very difficult. It's not an easy transition.
Fun,
no, it's first of all, it's a very odd feeling throughout the entire preseason to have things structured the way they are. You're in meetings, 3 or 4 times compared to being on the practice field. Now we take full advantage of everything. We got jog-throughs and walk-throughs and all that. But it's a little different feeling.
Isn't there always been a feeling that you'd rather go a hard hour and a half, hour 45, intense, focused, rather than longer practices where guys don't seem to get much from that last hour of practice and stuff? A 2.5-hour practice is something that are going to be productive?
Well, unfortunately, that's what we're dealt with.
Right. So you have to. They have.
You have
to
a 3-hour window.
Right.
Okay.
Basically.
So what you do is, Mike, you start and you have a jog through. And that leads you right through the practice. So the players are actually out there much longer because the jog-throughs lead right up into the practice. So, and because you have 90, to be honest with you, your practices are naturally longer because you have more plays per period so that you can work all 3 units.
It's funny. I flip it around to a couple of preseason games. I usually don't do one the first week, but I did this year because of everything that's going on. And a lot of guys were saying, we're playing preseason games, and we really haven't hit yet. I mean, can you imagine such a thing?
I heard that statement. That was hard to believe. Now, I know that the breakout of the practices versus the shelled practices, that before the first game, it's almost 50-50 because you got to be smart enough to know that when the August 4th number comes, depending on how many people you had in that category, you're just not going to throw them out there. So what we did is went back, put shells on them for a couple of days. So we ended up with about 6 padded versus 5 non. And but you don't get any real live contact or any live tackling. You bang into each other, you do those things, but everybody's up.
It would seem to me, Tom, just what I've known through the years, it would seem to me the running game is going to be like people are going to feel like they haven't spent any time on a running game when they get to the regular season. Because the running game is such that you got to hit to have a running game. So it seemed to me there's going to be very little running game having been worked on in these camps, right?
Well, you work on it for the best you can. However, the details, the execution of it, you're going to get some splash plays just by the ability of the runner. But when you really think about all 11 performing the way they're supposed to, it's pretty rare.
There's been a lot of thoughts about what we're going to see. Let's see what you think about things. People have said, doctors have said, there's going to be a lot more injuries. You buy there's going to be a lot more injuries because of the way this has all broken out?
Well, that's a concern. It's a concern when you go back to a small number of guys, 53 and then 46. That's a major concern. Throughout this preseason, we'll be able to buffer it out pretty well. But when it comes to that, we still aren't going to know a whole lot until we go ahead and play a game.
Do you think it's going to take teams 4, 5, 6 weeks regular season to really start to get into a real good, just real good feel about, how they're doing and how just the way they feel and the way they execute? You think it's going to take teams a long time coming out of training camp?
Well, again, it's going to depend on the team. You would hope that it doesn't. To be honest with you, you look at it from the standpoint of the offenses, in my opinion, are a little bit behind. Now, you can't say that for all the offenses in the league, but that would be your general statement. And as long as that is the case, it'll take a little more time.
I would think this would be a very hard year to break in a new staff where you got a coach of coaches and then get out there and teach people a new system and in a whole new setting. It'd be a tough year to be a first-year coach somewhere.
I think if you were sitting there as a first-year coach and you were looking at the day and the hours in the day that you have to produce, and then all of a sudden these games start showing up, it would be tough.
We're talking with Tom Coughlin. Tom, I mentioned this to Jerry Reese. There's been this feeling this year, which is an unusual feeling about the Giants, that the Giants have just not had everything on the right page this year in preseason like they do most years, that maybe they didn't get the guys they wanted. Jerry dispelled some of that. He says, I don't think that we're off where we're supposed to be. I think everyone loses guys that they want to keep for different reasons, but this idea that the Giants are just way off their plan, he didn't buy into.
No, we're not way off our plan. There certainly is a couple of guys we'd like to have here, but again, the word that the Giants that we have used is we've made very good, what we thought reasonable value offers, and quite frankly, they just weren't a part of that person's decision. So, yeah, you'd like to have had them all. We don't have them all, so we go forward, and we've got to hope that some of these guys that are going to get a chance will step up to that opportunity.
Listen, coaches always want them all. We know that. I mean, if you always want to have everybody. We know that. Is this frustrating to have seen some of the people leave who have left this year?
Well, it's always frustrating. Disappointing is probably a better word. You go right back to work, and to be honest with you, watching the players, I don't see any big issue with the players about it. I'm sure they feel the same way as we all do. It'd be very, very nice to have guys here that are not here, but let's take the guys we've got and let's recognize the ones that are working and practicing. Let's see what we can do there. Now, you asked me about the progress of some of the key guys that have got to be in those roles, and I would tell you that there are some that I'm pleased with and others that have got to get going.